Hello, Lee here, Liam, Mohammed. We're here to talk about fear. So, topic was just brought up, fear. It's an interesting feeling to me. It's something that I've allowed to hold me back at many times in my life. It's something that I've personally allowed to be my driving factor to keep going in my life. It's something that I've seen time and time again within my own life, my own storyline, within everybody I've encountered. There's always an aspect of fear present. What is this energy? How do we master fear?
In our last ayahuasca ceremony, you said something interesting. I felt very afraid, and I said, "Lee, why am I afraid?" And he said, "Don't try and conquer the fear. Work with it. It's always going to be there." And that was a real realization for me. And by accepting that, the fear kind of lessened. You know,
Just
I
by
was more.
surrendering.
I was more one with the fear. Rather than escaping from the fear, I was accepting it and appreciating that it was there for a reason and I needed it.
This is what I've been describing as illuminating fear rather than eliminating it.
Mm.
By embracing all parts of us, even the parts that we fear, we're in essence accepting ourselves. We're surrendering to ourselves. There's parts of me that get afraid. There's parts of me that get angry. There's parts of me that do stupid stuff. There's parts of me that make mistakes all the time. By accepting these parts of me, I seem to be less fearful. I seem to be less angry. I seem to be more balanced, more in harmony, more ready to embrace life just by accepting the part of me that's afraid. It's a paradox. You know, surrender and redirect the energy. I mean, you can do whatever you want with life, whatever comes at you. If it's fear, if it's sadness, embrace it, and you'll realize that you might have a smile on your face the whole time.
Well, sometimes fear is rational, sometimes it's irrational.
Mm.
When it's rational, we have to listen. When it's irrational, we need to use it as a sign to go through whatever we need to do. Let's say we become afraid to speak in front of a crowd. That's not a rational fear because there's no danger. So we need to use that fear as an impetus to go into that thing.
Yes.
And fear is a tool in that way.
It's interesting to use it in a way like a tool, like you're describing. Like now you're working with fear rather than fighting it.
Rather than being a victim of the fear.
You're aware of the fear, and now you're like, okay, here's fear. Okay, how can I use it to my advantage in essence? You know what I mean? How can it work best with me? And I think those are important questions for us to really ask ourselves. How do I empower myself through fear? How do I make certain decisions that allow me to make fear my best friend? How does fear help me? How can you help me, fear? You know? These questions are very, very important for us to really ask ourselves.
And when we act in the face of irrational fears, we lessen those fears every time to the point where they disappear.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah. Like I've experienced that on my literally my path, of stepping into fear, and all of a sudden I'm less and less afraid of things, and when I am afraid now, personally I've redefined fear as opportunity. I've looked in the mirror and I've said over and over and over, fear is opportunity. Fear is opportunity.
Opportunity for growth.
Yeah, for whatever, for anything. Opportunity. What is this an opportunity for? Ask yourself that question every single time. It could be growth, expansion. I mean, it all is growth anyways.
And it always feels good afterwards, after you step through a fear, because you're always going to be okay. You always feel like you've accomplished something. You're a better person for stepping through your fear.
That's a huge lesson.
You're more yourself afterwards. Less controlled by it.
Yeah, for me, I always tell myself it's okay to be afraid. For me, it's the fear that makes the game interesting. If there was no fear, it would be boring. I look at my fear and I accept it, as you guys said. You acknowledge your fear and you respect it as an essential part of the game that we are playing. And we all know that fear is for our growth. Make it interesting, you know. One of the things that you just mentioned is like, for me, when I was going to teach yoga for the first time, you have this fear, or when you want to teach meditation.
Isn't that a weird little rush, that feeling?
Yeah, because they are crowd and you don't know,
Yeah.
and you want to you're not sure on your own ability, But I always look at it, wow, it's interesting. Now I'm going to do this anyway.
Yeah.
Either I'm going to do it, and there's this fear, so it makes it interesting. And you can sometimes analyze it and see what is it that I'm afraid of. I am afraid to screw it up in front of the crowds, and they will laugh at me. So it goes back again to my self-importance.
It's such an interesting thing because, like, for a while I was going to a lot of comedy shows, and I would usually, if I had a chance, I would always speak to the comedian at the end, and I'd ask them about their experience and what factors got them to where they are at. I love learning from people, and what their story is pretty much, and I love asking them questions, how they got where they got, and then I can use that and apply it in my own life. Everybody gets to teach me something, and the common theme I heard for comedians is when they first get on stage, they get booed right off stage.
Yes.
Like just
Yes,
booed
all of
and
them.
like just shamed, embarrassed. So how do you step through that feeling? Or should somebody live in fear of that feeling? Or should they just step on stage? Maybe you'll get booed. Who gives a shit?
Nobody was
shit,
great
exactly.
at anything when they first begun. It's all a necessary part of the process and the journey.
That's it.
Failure is a whole other topic altogether, and it's one we should talk about in a video. But there's a saying which goes, if you want to succeed quicker, then double your rate of failure, because failure is necessary.
Yes.
Double your rate of failure.
And we were going to talk about the failure, and we just changed the subject to fear.
That's awesome. So we'll have another video on failure. Look out for that. Subscribe down below. Thank you very much.
Om Namah
Namaste.
Shivaya.